Your soulmate's family secretly talked about you. What they decided may surprise you. My beloved child, stop for just one heartbeat, because what is about to unfold was never meant to reach you this soon. Somewhere beyond your sight, a conversation has already taken place, a conversation where your name quietly entered a room you never knew existed. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. Yet every single word spoken carried the weight of a future that has not fully arrived. Stay a little longer, because this is only the beginning, and the next few moments may completely change the way you look at everything happening around you. Imagine a home where familiar faces gather around a table. The room feels ordinary at first, but there is an unusual silence between each sentence. One person finally breaks it. They mention you. Not with doubt, not with judgment, but with curiosity that no one expected. Another voice follows, sharing a small detail about you that others had never noticed before. Suddenly, what started as casual conversation begins transforming into something much deeper. No one realizes it yet, but every opinion shared is quietly building toward one unexpected conclusion. What if the people connected to your soulmate have been seeing pieces of your journey long before you recognized them yourself? What if they noticed your quiet resilience? The way you kept moving forward without demanding recognition, the calm strength hidden beneath moments when everyone assumed you were struggling? The surprising part is not that they talked about you. The surprising part is why they could not stop talking. Before this story moves any further, promise yourself one thing: don't rush away. Some answers reveal themselves only to those patient enough to remain until the final moment. As the discussion continues, different perspectives begin to appear. One family member remembers hearing your name months ago. Another recalls an unexpected coincidence that suddenly feels meaningful. Someone else admits they had formed an opinion without truly knowing you, but now, after observing events unfold, they feel something has changed. Isn't it fascinating how people sometimes understand your growth only after you've already become someone completely different? Growth is quiet. Transformation rarely announces itself. And destiny often whispers before it ever speaks loudly. That is why today's story isn't about proving your worth to anyone. It is about recognizing that genuine change creates echoes far beyond your own life. Every decision you've made, every lesson you've learned, every difficult moment you've survived has been sending invisible signals into places you never imagined. Some people notice those signals immediately. Others need time. Your soulmate's family, they needed time. But now that time has arrived. A thoughtful silence settles over the room again. No one seems eager to interrupt it. Sometimes silence speaks with greater honesty than words ever could. During those quiet seconds, everyone begins connecting pieces that previously felt unrelated. Small events. Chance meetings. Unexpected timing. Tiny details that once seemed insignificant now fit together like parts of a much larger design. Could coincidence really explain all of it? Or has life been arranging something behind the scenes while everyone remained focused on the obvious? Hold that question close. Because the answer is approaching far sooner than anyone expects. One voice finally says something that changes the atmosphere entirely. It isn't who we thought. The room becomes still. Not because anyone is shocked. but because they suddenly realize they may have misunderstood your story from the very beginning. That realization shifts everything. Without arguments. Without drama. Just quiet understanding. And sometimes, those are the moments that reshape the future most powerfully. As you listen, remember this: people may form opinions based on fragments, but truth has an extraordinary way of arriving at exactly the right moment. It doesn't force itself into the room. It waits until every missing piece is ready to be seen. Your journey has never been about convincing everyone. It has been about becoming someone whose actions eventually speak louder than assumptions. Now another unexpected detail begins to surface, one that nobody in that conversation anticipated. It isn't about your past. It isn't about appearances. It is about something far more lasting, a quality that cannot be borrowed, copied, or hidden. And when that truth finally enters the discussion, every previous conclusion begins to shift. Wait just a little longer. Because the decision they are about to make isn't based on rumors. It isn't based on fear. It isn't even based on expectations. It is based on something they discovered when they looked beyond the surface. What they choose next may surprise everyone. Especially you. A quiet realization begins to spread through that room. Not because someone raised their voice, but because one unexpected question changed the direction of the entire conversation. What if we've been looking at this story from the wrong side? The words hang in the air. No one answers immediately. Instead, every face reflects the same thought. The picture they had created about you no longer fits the pieces they are discovering. Stay with this moment, because what happens next is where everything begins to shift. One family member speaks first. They remember something your soulmate once said without realizing how important it would become. It wasn't a dramatic confession. It was only a simple sentence spoken during an ordinary day. I feel different whenever I think about them. At the time, nobody paid attention. Now those words return with new meaning. Another person quietly admits that your soulmate has changed in ways no one expected. They smile more often. They seem calmer when your name comes up. Even during difficult moments, there is a quiet confidence in their eyes that wasn't there before. Could one connection really inspire such change? Or is there something much deeper unfolding beneath the surface? Before you answer that in your own heart, listen carefully, because another piece is about to appear. An older voice in the room gently says, sometimes the right people don't arrive with noise. They arrive with peace. The room falls silent again. That sentence reaches everyone differently. Suddenly, the conversation stops being about assumptions and starts becoming about character. Not what people say. Not what others believe. But who someone consistently chooses to become. Your story begins standing on its own. No explanations. No defense. Only quiet evidence. And isn't that how the strongest truths usually reveal themselves? The atmosphere changes once again. Instead of questioning your place in this story, they begin asking something entirely different. What kind of future could this create? That single question transforms everything. For the first time, they aren't looking backward. They're looking ahead. They begin imagining possibilities that once seemed impossible. They picture two lives encouraging one another to grow instead of holding each other back. They speak about trust, patience, shared purpose, and the rare kind of connection that becomes stronger with time instead of weaker. If you've stayed this far, you're beginning to understand something many people overlook. Sometimes the greatest turning point doesn't happen when someone finally notices you. It happens when they finally understand you. That difference changes everything. If this story has made you pause and reflect, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Every perspective adds another layer to this journey. And if you enjoy stories that explore hidden truths, subtle connections, and meaningful possibilities, subscribing simply means you'll be here for the next chapter whenever it arrives. But don't leave yet. The conversation inside that room is not over. Just when everyone believes they've reached a conclusion, one final voice speaks up. It belongs to the person who has listened more than anyone else. They slowly say, "There is still one thing we haven't considered." Every eye turns toward them. Whatever they are about to reveal carries more weight than every opinion shared so far. Because this isn't based on guesses. It's based on something they quietly observed, something no one else noticed. And the moment they reveal it, the decision waiting at the center of this conversation begins to change in a way that no one saw coming. You'll understand why in the next part. Just when it seemed every opinion had already been shared, the quietest person in the room finally leaned forward. Their expression wasn't filled with excitement, it carried certainty. And somehow, that certainty made everyone else stop speaking. "There's something all of you missed." The room became completely still. No one interrupted. No one looked away. Because deep down, everyone sensed that the next few words would carry more truth than everything said before. The speaker smiled gently and continued. "You've all been asking whether this person is right for our family, but no one stopped to ask what they have already brought into our lives without even realizing it." A silence followed. Not an uncomfortable silence. A thoughtful one. One by one, memories began returning. Someone remembered how your soulmate had become more hopeful after meeting you. Another noticed that difficult conversations had become calmer. Someone else admitted that your name never seemed to create tension, it created reflection. It wasn't about perfection. It was about influence. Real influence doesn't force change. It quietly inspires it. Have you ever noticed how the strongest people rarely announce who they are? They simply leave every place a little brighter than they found it. Perhaps that's exactly what has been happening all along. Stay with this story, because the most unexpected realization has only just arrived. The oldest member of the family slowly nodded. "I think we've been measuring the wrong things." Those words echoed through every heart in the room. For so long, they had focused on appearances, timing, expectations, and circumstances. Now, they were beginning to see character, patience, kindness, consistency. The qualities that remain long after first impressions disappear. One by one, their doubts quietly dissolved, not because someone argued against them, but because the truth had become impossible to ignore. Then something happened that no one expected. Your soulmate, who had been listening quietly nearby, spoke with complete honesty. I never asked anyone to agree with me. Another pause. I only hoped one day they'd understand why I never stopped believing. No one answered immediately. Sometimes the simplest words carry the greatest weight. And in that moment, understanding replaced uncertainty. The conversation no longer felt like a debate. It felt like a new beginning. But destiny has a remarkable habit of saving its greatest surprise for the final moment. As everyone prepared to leave, one family member smiled and quietly said, "Maybe this meeting wasn't about deciding their future." Every face turned toward them. They continued, "Maybe it was about preparing ourselves for the future that has already begun." Those words settled into the room like the final piece of a puzzle. No applause. No dramatic reaction. Only peaceful agreement. Yet even then, one small envelope remained unopened on the table. No one had mentioned it. No one had reached for it. Inside was a message that would make this entire conversation look completely different. And once that message is finally revealed, you'll understand why every event leading to this moment happened exactly when it did. The greatest surprise has not been spoken yet. Before anyone reached for the unopened envelope, a gentle breeze slipped through the window, as if the room itself was waiting for permission to reveal one final truth. No one rushed. Some moments deserve silence before they become unforgettable. Stay until the very end, because this final chapter connects every piece you've heard so far. The oldest family member slowly picked up the envelope and turned it over in their hands. There was no name written on the outside. Only a single sentence. Read this only when your hearts are ready to see beyond appearances. The room grew completely still. The envelope was opened. Inside wasn't a prediction. It wasn't a secret about the future. It wasn't even a message asking anyone to make a choice. Instead, it contained a simple reflection. The strongest connections are never built by perfect moments. They are built by two people who continue becoming better versions of themselves, even when no one is watching. For several long seconds, nobody spoke. Then something remarkable happened. Every person in the room realized they had spent so much time trying to decide whether you belonged in the story, that they had overlooked how the story itself had already changed because of you. Your presence had inspired patience. Your character had encouraged trust. Your journey had reminded others that real growth is quiet, steady, and impossible to fake. That was the surprise. Not that they suddenly accepted you, but that they recognized the value you had carried all along. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't hearing people praise your name. It's discovering that your actions have already spoken long before your voice ever needed to. If this story resonated with you, you're warmly invited to share your thoughts in the comments. Reading different perspectives makes every journey richer. And if you enjoy stories filled with mystery, hope, and meaningful twists, subscribing simply means we'll continue exploring these moments together in future videos. As everyone prepared to leave the room, your soulmate smiled, a quiet smile that needed no explanation. One family member looked around and softly said, "So, our decision was never really about choosing a person." Another nodded. It was about recognizing a heart. Those words settled into the room like the final note of a beautiful melody. The meeting ended. The conversation was over. But the understanding they carried home would remain far longer than the discussion itself. And perhaps that's the hidden message waiting for you today. You cannot control every opinion. You cannot hurry every answer. You cannot force every door to open. But you can continue becoming the kind of person whose kindness, resilience, and quiet strength leave an impression that time only makes clearer. Because in the end, the most meaningful decisions are rarely created in a single conversation. They are formed by countless small moments of truth. And somewhere, beyond what you can see today, another conversation may already be beginning. One that carries your name with respect, your story with understanding, and your future with possibilities that are only now starting to unfold. This chapter closes here. But your journey is only getting started. Long after the room had emptied, one small detail refused to leave anyone's mind. It wasn't the envelope. It wasn't the decision. It was the feeling that something meaningful had quietly begun the moment the conversation ended. Hours passed. The house returned to its usual rhythm. Yet each person carried the same unanswered thought. What happens next? That question lingered because true understanding always creates a new beginning. Your soulmate stepped outside into the evening air and looked toward the horizon. There was no dramatic announcement. No grand promise. Only a quiet sense of certainty growing stronger with every passing moment. Sometimes life doesn't move forward with loud victories. Sometimes it moves forward through peaceful confidence. And that confidence cannot be borrowed from anyone else. It is built, one honest choice at a time. Stay with this final stretch, because one last realization is waiting for you. Back inside the house, another family member gently smiled and said something no one expected. We kept searching for signs about the future. They paused. But perhaps the greatest sign was the person they had already become. Those words settled deeply into every heart. It wasn't about waiting for perfection. It wasn't about finding someone without flaws. It was about recognizing someone who kept growing, even when the path was difficult. Growth. Integrity. Patience. These were the qualities that had quietly rewritten the entire conversation. Perhaps that is the hidden message this story has been leading toward all along. People may notice your achievements, but they remember your character. People may forget impressive moments, but they rarely forget the peace they feel around someone who is genuine. What if your greatest strength has never been something you needed to prove? What if it has always been reflected in the lives you quietly inspire? As the stars slowly appeared overhead, your soulmate whispered a thought that no one else could hear. I'm grateful our story wasn't rushed. Because some journeys become beautiful precisely because they unfold one step at a time. Every delay teaches wisdom. Every challenge builds resilience. Every unexpected turn prepares both hearts for something stronger than either imagined. And perhaps that's why this story found you today. Not to promise instant answers. Not to predict tomorrow. But to remind you that meaningful connections are shaped by authenticity, understanding, and steady growth. If you've listened from the very beginning, you've already discovered the real surprise. It was never simply about a family talking behind closed doors. It was about how quiet truth can transform uncertainty into respect, assumptions into understanding, and ordinary conversations into moments that gently change the future. Carry that reminder with you. Continue becoming the person your values are shaping you to be. Because somewhere beyond today's horizon, new conversations, new opportunities, and new chapters are already waiting. And when they arrive, you won't need to convince anyone who you are. Your journey will speak for itself. The following morning felt different. Nothing around your soulmate had visibly changed, yet everything inside them had. They carried the memory of every conversation, every thoughtful pause, and every unexpected realization from the night before. But one truth echoed louder than the rest. Real connections don't ask for perfection. They ask for authenticity. That sentence stayed with them all day. Meanwhile, their family noticed something subtle. There was no hesitation in your soulmate's voice anymore. No uncertainty hidden behind careful words. Instead, there was a quiet confidence that needed no explanation. One family member smiled and whispered, "I've never seen them this peaceful." Another simply nodded. Perhaps peace is the answer we've been searching for all along. Isn't that how life's most meaningful moments often arrive? Not with noise. Not with pressure. But with a calm certainty that gently settles into every heart. Take one more step with this story, because its final message is meant for you as much as it is for them. Life will always place opinions in your path. Some will understand you quickly. Others will need time. A few may never fully see your journey. But your purpose has never depended on everyone's approval. It has always depended